Let there be peace. Let there be inner peace. We're going to take the time to find the key to your own personal inner peace and discover how you can stay centered in the peace, regardless of whatever's going on around the world, regardless of whatever's going on around in your family or in your work environment, or perhaps, just maybe, a few of those troublesome thoughts that cross your mind from time to time. How do you stay centered and remove yourself from the angst, the worry, the disturbances? How do you remove yourself from other people's interference and jealousy and their need to kind of create disruption? How do you separate yourself from people who are, well, in their own being, disrupted? And then how do you not feed into that disruption and allow that to penetrate the joy, the harmony, and the peace, and the light and love you want to create for yourself and for your family? You see, we are creatures of habit. And interestingly enough, many of our habits have been formed very early on. We've learned, well, we've been carefully taught by so many people, by our parents, by our immediate family. We've been taught by our environment, society, even some of the messages that we were exposed to early on in television and radio. These things have become very well embedded in the being that is us, the human condition, the limited thinking, the boundaries, the thoughts that perhaps, when we take a step back, really aren't our thoughts at all, really aren't our fears at all, really are not our beliefs. There's a show, South Pacific, beautiful musical, and that musical talks about hatred. It talks about judgment. It also talks about racism. And in that beautiful musical, there's a song that says, you've got to be carefully taught to hate. We, as a human race, have formed opinions, thoughts, and we've put them out, and we have freedom of expression, a great, great right and liberty that we have. And as we express our fears, our concerns, our beliefs, our boundaries, our thoughts of what's right or wrong, if it's based in fear, then our children, they begin to absorb it. They begin to feel the feeling. And then they become fearful. Think about when we are told not to touch the stove. The stove is hot. We see there's fire, heat rising off of it. We see things boiling. We tell the child, don't touch the stove. And we hammer it in to make an impression, to create a really worthwhile hesitation on the child's part, to, of course, not inflict harm upon themselves and not touch the stove. But how many times have we created a limitation, a thought, a fear in a group of people, amongst our family, because we are just emulating our insecurity, our thoughts, our fears? And how do we stay centered and recognize what is our thought, our fear, our concern, our worry, our insecurity in comparison to someone else's? Or let me say it differently. How do we recognize what's my stuff, your stuff, their stuff, and an accumulation of emotional stuff that is out in the world all around us? And because we are energetic beings, we are guided by a frequency. Our heart beats in a rhythm that is directed by a source creator. We are in tune with each other. And so we feel other people's feelings. And everyone, not just me, everyone is intuitive. Every person on this earth has the ability to sense, to kind of feel or kind of smell when something's rotten, something doesn't feel right. We've all got that capability. And we all are being asked now, in these great times, to drop into our inner compass and really learn to feel what feels right and what feels off. And when something feels off, we don't need to know what another person's agenda may be or what the thought process is behind it, because that is their motivating factor. We just have to honor what feels right for us. If you feel like you want to do something for someone, you want to do a wonderful thing for them, help them, assist them. It's not necessary to poll your friends, your family, or to boast about it. It's to just simply do it. It's to, from your heart, give. And when something feels out of sorts, it's not necessary to check with others and say, what do you think? You have to drop within. Because remembering that another person carries their own stuff, their own insecurities, their own limitations, their own conditions, their own fears. They may interpret a story totally differently than you would. But you have your own compass. You have your own compass that is always driving you to go back to center, to go back to peace, and be in love. Pure and simple. And when something comes from out of the blue, and it doesn't sit right, then inner peace is the answer. To find that center and find that peace so that you recognize your truth and who you are. And at that moment in time, it does not matter if everyone agrees. It matters what feels good. It matters what you recognize. And honoring self. Because in these days ahead, to know thyself, to know thy truth, and to be thy own self true to thine own self is so important. To recognize who you are, and to realize that when you are centered and you feel joy and love and harmony, and whatever you must do to get yourself to that moment in time, to that place in your being, that is paramount in the journey of life. And we've all taken some things for granted, have we not? We've all assumed that things would stay the way they always were. And when change comes upon us, especially one that seems unfavorable or difficult or uncomfortable, we very often buck change. And we don't want to dive into a pool of unknown. But then there's that connection to the compass that simply says, trust the process. Trust the process and know that all will be well, regardless of how uncomfortable you feel. Regardless of how unfamiliar the territory may be, feel the feeling of who you are. And know that you're never alone, always fully supported and guided by your angels. We're all human. We all have thoughts and feelings. We all feel things that cause us uncomfortableness, create a discord from time to time. But the key to staying in inner peace is how quickly from the moment of discord, disturbance, uncomfortability, can we just go right back to center? Because we are an accumulation of energy. So if as you look out into the world, be it in a city, a state, a country, and you see something that is distasteful, hurtful, far removed from peace, if you see disturbances in nature and with mankind, and you feel the angst, the hurt, the uncomfortability, look inside and find the inner peace of self. And then begin to send out the radiation of energy that aligns all that's before you, that appears in this energy to be horrific, uncomfortable, disturbing, you can only control your reactions, your thoughts, your feelings. But remembering that you are an integral part of this world, that each one of us is a citizen of the planet. We're not citizens of cities and states and countries. We're all one in a beautiful, vast world. And we have put ourselves upon a path in 2020 of change. And many of us have stepped into 2020 with excitement and joy and ready for open arms, a new experience. And perhaps some of us have cleaned house and gotten our own personal lives in order. And then, much to our dismay and surprise, we turn on the television and we see things that are so uncomfortable to see. And then we ask the question, how can it be? Stay centered in who you are. Remember that love and light and peace are the only way. Remember that your words have power. The power to create and the power to destroy. And yes, we can all have an opinion. It's our personal right. Yes, we can all feel what we feel. But when you are feeling fear or hatred or angst, ask yourself, where does this come from? And do your best to put yourself back to center. The compass always points moving forward in trusting in light and love. It'll never point you in a different way. And your inner compass will never mislead you. And the more that you learn to sit and be still and to truly appreciate who you are, the easier it'll be for you to step into who you are and to learn to trust the guidance, the feeling, the nudge, the signs, the symbols, the joy, the harmony. And the more you'll empower those feelings. And when things around you become disturbing, disconnect as quickly as you can from the feeling of it and see whatever you saw that created a disturbance, see it in a resolution of peace. Now, some of you may say, but there are some things that we've been struggling to have peace for centuries. So how would that be? Well, we're powerful beings. And if we all remember that we are connected energetically, each person, regardless of skin color, regardless of religion, each one of us is connected in one divine, supreme, energetic flow. That to judge another, you always judge yourself. To cast hurt and pain on another, you hurt yourself. To be in a disruption, a disturbance, an angst, you only hurt yourself. But that energy penetrates all around you. And there you get to recognize that you too are a part of the cause and effect. So what can you do? Yes, let there be peace. Let there be peace on earth, and yes, let it begin with you. Let it begin with me. Let's center ourselves in this 2020. I know so many of you are so excited for this year, and many of us have some lofty goals. We want to reach new heights. We want to break out of the patterns and the conditions and the limitations and the feelings of stagnation and just not feeling like we have made the progress that we desire. So ask yourself, who inside of me is out of alignment? Ask yourself, who does not feel worthy? And talk to self and recognize that by first setting the intention of joy and love and peace, harmony in all your interactions, setting the intention of being one with Source and putting that connection first before all the goals, then yes, everything will line up perfectly. We're going to just ask the angels, the guides. We're going to call upon our Source Creator. We're going to ask that anything that is out of alignment on this planet, that the hearts of mankind are opened up, that the leaders find a way, and that peace can be restored. We're going to ask for healing for all who have been hurt and disrupted by all the goings on in the world. We're going to ask for the weather to change for our friends in Australia. We're going to ask for healing for the island of Puerto Rico. We're going to ask that whatever seems out of alignment, the suffering, the pain that is out in the world, that perhaps is not a part of your living reality, but it is part of the reality that you live within. We're going to send love. We're going to send light. And we're going to summon the angels to bring forth the miracles necessary for everyone, whether the limitation be poverty, lack, illness, disease, whether the limitation be loneliness and sorrow and pain, whether the limitation resides in unworthiness and insecurity, whatever the limitation is, we're going to ask for healing. Healing for everyone on the planet, that each person recognize and remember who they are, each one of you, a divine being of God, each one of you a magnificent light that has come to shine oh so bright. Believe in you, and believe that the force that resides within you is a force that governs the entire universe, and that there's no limitation, no story, no uncomfortability, disruption, weather, or war that cannot be healed in the energy of divine love and the universal flow of God. We ask the angels assist us in this matter, and I ask that all of you listening just take a nice breath. And as you breathe, remember that you're breathing in the breath of life. Just let's all say, let there be peace. Peace on earth. And let it begin with me. You are the governing force of energy in this planet. And God's authority is the only authority acting in and around everything you do. So if you allow, if you're open, if you're receptive, you are the authority, the love, the light of the divine Source Creator in motion. And there's nothing you cannot do. You are infinite beings on this planet. So as you set your goals for 2020, as you cast your eyes upon stories that create fear or disturbance, remember I am the force of God in motion. And in this moment, the energy inside of me, the force within me, chooses peace. And so it is.